Okay, today we're going to talk a little bit about numbers. Like I said, it's Math Monday, and I'm going to just kind of do a little bit of a review right now, and then we'll get into our lesson for the day. But I want to show you what I have here. These are called bunchums. My daughter loves to do crafts and activities like that, so she has these, and when you bunch them together, you can make things. So they stick together like that, and then you can make different things. Which looks weird, but it does work. So I'm going to use these as my manipulatives today because I really don't have any math things. I didn't bring any home with me. So I'm going to use what I have around the house. So I'm going to take these bunchums and I'm going to put them together. And even though they're bunchums, they do represent a number. For example, these are my red bunchums that I have on the table. And each one of these represents a number. And if I put them together, they represent one whole number. So here, if I take them apart, then this is one bunchum, 2, 3, and 4. I can put them together and I know right away that this bunchum, I don't know, it's not a line, squiggly, is 4. It represents 4 bunchums. All right, I can take more than that together. In fact, this is how I do things when I count. I like to put groups together. Like I like to put 10 groups together. So I'm going to add a blue. So then I know how much is this. That's 5 because I had 4 red and I added a blue. 4 plus 1 is 5. So there we go. That's 5. So then I'm going to put some more blues because blue is my favorite color. And I'm going to put some greens. I can bunch them together. Not in this nice pattern as I would, but there's 5 more. So if I put 5 and 5 together, what do I have? I have 10. So there's my line of bunchums that are 10 bunchums. Much easier to count like this. If I do 10, this is a 10 line of bunchums. Then I can put some more together. Here's 4 plus 5. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to put 4 plus 5. So then there's 5 plus 5. I've got another line of bunchums. So there's 10 more. So I have 10 and I have 10, and that makes 20. 10 plus 10 is 20. Easier to count than counting them individually. So I like to kind of put my bunchums together like I would my base 10 blocks. And this is going to help me to count. So if you have anything like that around the house, that would be a good idea to get those right now. If you have some things you could use for counting or base 10 blocks or things like that, if you have bunchums, maybe you have Legos, you could use Legos to count as well. So if you want to go ahead and grab those, you can. If not, just a piece of paper would be fine right now and a pencil just to kind of practice doing some things with numbers. All right. So that's my bunchums, my counting tools. We're going to talk about numbers today. I'm just going to bring some numbers out. I'm going to use the same numbers I used this morning when we did our, the answer is when I used the number 24. So I'm going to use that same number. This is the number 24. Numbers are all around us. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the ways that we can write numbers today too, because that's going to help us in our lesson. So these are the numbers 2 and 4. And when I put them together, they made 24. I can write the number 24 different ways. So I'm going to move this up here so that I can show you different ways that we can write. So the first way that we can write is we can write it in written form. We can write the word 20. We can write the word 4, and it still represents 24. It's just written now. So they're equal. 24 is equal to 2 and 4, 24. The other way we can write it is just what I said right there. We call that standard form. That's the way we usually write numbers, and that's using the digits 2 and 4. And the other way we can write it, which we're going to talk about today, is called expanded form. And that's when we take the value of the digits and we write it using their values. So that means how much is that number worth? I'm going to move that over here. And that's the value of each of the digits. And we call that place value. which is very important when we talk about numbers. Place value is how numbers become what they are. So this number 2 could be just 2 by itself. I could grab 2 bunchums. Here's 2 bunchums. That's the number 2, 2 individual bunchums. Or I could use the number 4, which would be 4 individual bunchums. So I could put those 4, hard to see, sorry, and that would just be worth 4. But then when we start to kind of manipulate the number, so we can change those around and make them different numbers. So for example, in this case, if we changed it around, that 4 is no longer just 4 individual bunchums. Now it's worth something completely different. It's worth 4 tens, and that is going to make it a lot bigger number. So when we use our numbers, it depends on what place they're in. And that's how we can do this more easily, by doing it in expanded form. Because we're going to take a look today at partial sums, which is using that expanded form in order to create numbers and add easily. So let's practice a few of those. I'm going to show you on the board here, I think, the number 53 and the number 44. So we're going to do that with our stickies here on my Jamboard. I'm going to move these up if that's okay with you. Kind of arrange so that we don't have everything right in a bunch so that you can see. Thank you for your patience. All right, so I'm going to take my pen and I'm going to write the number 55. By the way, this board is a little bit persnickety. All right, kind of works sometimes, kind of doesn't. Depends. That's the number 55. And if we want to write this in expanded form, we're going to take how many tens and how many ones there are. So if you look at this number, this is always your tens place when you have those 2 digits. The first one would be tens and the second one would be ones. So how many tens do we have? We have 5 tens. And how much are 5 tens worth? So if we take our hand and we count how many tens are in 5 tens, we could go 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. How much are 5 tens worth? They're worth 50. So we're going to expand this to show exactly the value of each of these digits. And then we look at the ones place, and we know that how much is 5 ones worth? Well, let's count it in ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's worth 5 ones. And we're going to add those together because that's actually what happens when we do our place value. And that's called expanded form. So we just took the value of our 5 and then the value of our other 5, and we made 50 plus 5. That's expanded form. We can do that also by using, if you want to start, I kind of started right in, but if you wanted to use some tens and ones, so your base 10 blocks, we could. So we could talk about this 5 that's in the tens place. So how many tens do we have? 5. And I'm just going to draw the quick base 10 blocks. So there we have 5 tens. So it'd be 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. And that's what we have over here. So that's we represented that with our number. And then how many ones do we have? Excuse me. We have 5 ones. These blocks are going to be kind of bad, but I'm going to try my best. Thank you for your patience again. How many little blocks do we have? Those represent ones, and we have 5 of them. So that represents this number. And that is what expanded form is. When we take, I'm going to show you all my bunchums, we take them apart to see what the value of the digits are. So the first digit is in the tens place. It's 5, so it's worth 50. The second digit is in the ones place. It's 5, but it's only worth 5 because it's the ones. Hopefully that makes sense. We're going to do a couple more practices. All right, so like what if we took the same concept we used a new number. Let's say we use the number 37, and we want to put this in expanded form. We're going to look at the value of the digits. So the first value is in the tens place. So when you have a 2-digit number, that first number is always the tens place. I'm going to put a T above it. Always in those 2-digit numbers. And then this one is the ones place. It's the final number. It's always the ones place when you have a 2-digit number like this, a whole number. All right, so we're going to see how much this 3 is worth. We're going to find out the value of that 3. So we can represent it in tens and ones. So this is in the tens place. See the T up there. And how many tens are we going to have? We're going to have 3 tens. And then this is the ones place. And how many ones do we have? We have 7 ones. Patience with my cubes, which don't really look like cubes right now, but that's okay. You get the idea. So how many cubes do we have? We have 7. So expanded form is just actually, and if it helps you to go ahead and draw out the base 10 blocks like this on your paper to figure out the number, that's fine too. But what we really want to do is focus on what the value of the digits are, because that's what math is, the value of those digits. So now we have 3 tens plus 7 ones, and we're going to do that in expanded form. So what's the value of those 3 tens? How much are they worth? They are worth 30. I'm sure you all got that, because if we counted our tens, it'd be 10, 20, 30. They're worth 30. So that 3's value is 30. Okay, now we're going to put a plus sign because that's what we're doing. We're adding the tens and the ones, and we're going to figure out how much that 7 is worth. And since it's the ones place, we're going to count the blocks, or the cubes, I should say. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The ones are worth 7. Now that's your expanded form. And if you add that together, what number will you get? You will get this number over here, because you just expanded it. You took it apart to show the value of each of the digits. All right, let's try another one. See if you can do this one. We're going to do the number 43. 43 in expanded form. We're going to look at the value of the digits. So this is the tens, because we're only working with 2-digit numbers right now. And this is the ones. T is for tens, O is for ones. So we're going to look at 4. And if it was just 4, like I said, with my little bunchums, if it was just that, whoa, that bunchum jumped right out of my hands. If it was just 4, then this number would be totally different. It would just be 4 in the ones place, but it's not. It's 40. So we're going to mark that with our base 10 blocks. So let's make 40. 40 would be how many tens? Look at this number right here. 4 tens. Those are really shameful. That's okay. You get the idea. And then we're going to look at plussing, or adding, I should say, and that is going to tell us how many ones we're going to add to the tens. How many ones are there? So we're going to do 3 cubes, because there's 3 ones. And that's how much that 3 was. If we took that 3 and moved it over here and switched places, it would completely change the value of that digit, all based on where it's placed. Hence, we call it place value. All right, so now how much are these 4 tens worth? Let's count. 10, 20, 30, 40. It's worth 40. So we're going to write that. That's the value of that 4. It's worth 40. And then let's look at this one. We're going to push add, and we're going to look at how many cubes we have. We have 3. That's how much that 3 is worth. It's worth just 3 ones. And we just wrote this in expanded form. If you add those together, you should get your original number. That's the expanded form. So we used the standard form to write the number. That's the standard form using the digits. And then we expanded it by taking apart to see what the place value is of each of those digits. And then we also could write it in written form. This is going to be awful, but I'm just going to try it. We could write 43. This is bad. I need a new kind of marker, huh? That's in your written form. Hey, we'll keep practicing that, right? So we've got standard, expanded, and written. Let's try one more difficult, I find. Maybe not difficult for you. I'm going to give you a new number. I'm going to give you 215. Now we've changed a little bit because now we don't have a 2-digit number, we have a 3-digit number. So we do know that in the first, if you're looking from the left to the right, this is going to be your hundreds place. Quite frankly, these two didn't change. The only thing we did was add a number to the front of it, which changes the complexity of the number. So the 1 is actually still in the tens place, and the 5 still in the ones place. And if you went back and looked at those other numbers, you would see it's the same. We just added that 100 because we made a bigger number, a larger number. Okay, so now we've just changed our place value a little bit because we don't just have tens and ones. We now have hundreds represented by our big flats. How many flats do we have? We have 2 flats, and each one of these flats is worth 100. All right, so now we have 2 hundreds. How many tens? We're going to add that. We have 1 10. And how many do we have for ones? We have 5 ones. So we've expanded our number to include our base 10 value. That one's a really bad one. Let's see if I can erase that. As I said, we'll keep trying. There you go. So let's look at the value of each of these. So 2 hundreds is worth 200. And how many tens? We have 1 10, and what's that worth? 1 10 is worth 10. And then how many ones do we have? We have 5. And now you see expanded form. This number, if you added 200 plus 10 plus 5, would equal our original standard form. So that's expanded form, and that's really just to look at what the place value of each digit is so that you can find its value. That's going to help you to do a lot of different skills. I use that a lot when I go to the grocery store just to figure out about how much money I'm going to spend, and we're going to talk about that in the next video. So hopefully you understand expanded form. You can practice this. Just give yourself a number, write the base 10 block model, and then figure out the value of the digits. And when you add them together, it should make that original number. Okay, good luck.